a lot of times when you play, you're pretty ignorant towards your own playing.
Yeah.
You don't realize it until you listen back.
Yeah.
And the only way for you to really learn is to really be honest with yourself, and you can't bluff yourself, you know what I mean? You can't lie to yourself. So
there it is.
I mean, it's just a matter of how much you want to improve and how much you want to put to it.
Guys, I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Arthur Cam. And off camera earlier, we were talking about
a lot of things.
Yeah, we were. Like, you were dropping some deep stuff. But I wondered if you could just revisit for a sec this whole idea of the way you approach influences and how you draw inspiration from other people's drumming.
Okay, so basically, when there's a drummer that you like, I like to study his history of being a drummer and listen to who he loves to listen, who inspired him, and what fuses and makes his sound. It's very important to go towards that aspect as opposed to just transcribing all the different lyrics. It's very easy to get things into your hands, but it might not necessarily go to your brains or to your head, you know what I mean? So it's very important to get the knowledge into your head and transfer it over to your hands.
For you, it's not about chops. You don't want to be one of these guys who's just trying to execute a bunch of fancy shit. You want to make sure that it comes back to the pocket. And where I'm going to challenge you slightly is I think that I don't really know a lot of drummers who can play chops well who also don't have pocket.
Well, it's a good practice, you know what I mean? When you're practicing like by yourself, it's like a warm-up, rudiments, it helps you. But really, like, to me, I try to use all of it sparingly, like where I'm supposed to use it, because I figured out that, you know, I used to do it a lot, like, and didn't really make my playing really special. Maybe because for me I didn't really have as much of a variation as those other guys, but it's very easy to be technical, and you practice it, you can, but in terms of maturity and musicality, that's a totally different thing. Some guys, like some guys, they have their sound, they have the chops and they have a groove and they work well in that situation. But for me, I'm different, so I would say like this is what creates the diversity and the difference between different drummers, different great drummers, you know?
So you talked about the importance of being exposed to high-level musicians and people who are going to hold you to a high standard early on. So I wonder who was that for you? Was there a musician who you met early on who kind of inspired you to push yourself?
We hear of all the great drummers like Dave Weckl, Vinny Colaiuta, Steve Gadd, Tony Williams. Well, for me, it was watching those videos and just digging so hard into that. The problem with that though was, I mean, it's a difference when you watch a video and when you hear it live. And what I come to conclusion is live is pretty much amplified a lot more. So if something doesn't feel good on the video, it means live probably wasn't that good. But if it's good like live, I mean, it's good in the video means the live was like a lot better.
I noticed that, and that's one reason why, like, one of the things I've been trying to do to get better myself is like playing on video and watching myself as often as possible. Because what I realized a couple years ago is there's a big distance between the way you can feel in the moment and then the way it actually sounds. And the intentionality and the emotional stuff is cool, but I don't want to gloss over this point because we all basically just went to school here, and 2 or 3 years ago I thought I was playing a lot of shit, and then I started recording myself and realized that the pocket wasn't there and the time wasn't there, and only by sort of recording myself religiously and just going back to the recording and just hating everything I heard, did I finally start to get in touch with what I think are maybe the more important things, which is like where is that pocket, and like it's almost a crease, and it's like, how do you fit your beat like into that exact shit? And my question for you is, was that always sort of intuitive for you, or did you have a moment of reckoning where you're like, oh shit, like I need to double down and bring my level up?
Well, I mean, I used to love recording myself.
I see.
And I think that's really important, is like, you have to learn to appreciate listening to yourself in order for other people to appreciate listening to you. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of times when you play, you're pretty ignorant towards your own playing.
Yeah.
You don't realize it until you listen back.
Yeah.
And the only way for you to really learn is to really be honest with yourself, and you can't bluff yourself, you know what I mean? You can't lie to yourself. So
There it is.
I mean, it's just a matter of how much you want to improve and how much you want to put to it. In every recording that you hear, there's always going to be stuff that you're going to want to change and perfect. Nobody's perfect 100%, right? But what we can do is we can always work towards being the best we can towards what we do and improve little by little.
Okay, so my question is, when you walk by a practice room and you hear like some younger players, and you hear somebody who you're like, oh shit, he's got it. What do you listen for that gives you an idea that somebody's gonna be good?
Firstly, it's the whole body language, how he's playing it. You could tell, like,
is it? Do they really mean it, or is it kind of
yeah,
accidental?
you
Are they
can
just
tell, like,
showing off?
you can tell, like, is he sloppy, if he is he means it, or is he trying to overdo it, is he trying to show off?
Right.
Of course, within like the fast and showy stuff, you could hear, like, man, how much this guy really knows what he's doing from the quality of what comes out, the quality of the chops. I always like to play in the present as opposed to the future.
Oh.
I always play in the present. As the song goes, I play. And in that case, you want to be the experience of the moment.
Right.
And anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. That's when your inner system is receptive to what's going on, you know?
Right.
Like you want to be able,
if some shit shifts over, like you have to adjust right away.
You want to be receptive to the little things that are going on. I really take like the little sounds and everything that's going on around me very seriously, because those stuff can influence your playing.
Creating a solo by like, this is an idea, and maybe you're thinking of it in real time. Maybe you don't perceive like your brain to be ahead of your hands, but it's still like you're making a sentence when you speak, right? Like maybe a good analogy is like good musicians speak in like well-formed thoughts, and so that sort of intentionality of not trying to express a thought that's more complicated than you can have your head around. So in other words, like when you have an idea and you play that idea, it's not a surprise to you. Like you might surprise yourself occasionally, but in general, it's like you're jamming along with yourself in your head. Is that the experience in a way?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
Okay.
For me, I take it like speaking. Like I'm speaking. You don't think about what you think. You don't think about what you want to speak in the future. You're going as you go, and you're getting really personal with the person.
Right.
Sometimes it requires us to like get on each other. Sometimes it's like you're speaking and I'm listening.
Right.
Sometimes it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know what I mean. That kind of situation. I look at it like that.
What is your average day in the practice room like these days? I know you just moved to town, so you haven't been shedding a whole bunch, but before, like during a semester at Berkeley, like say you've got 2 hours in the shed, like do you think about what you're going to practice in advance and plan it out, or do you just kind of go and sit down and see what comes out?
When I have a lot of the period and the season where I have a lot of gigs, a lot of recording and all this stuff lined up, I don't have time to practice the other stuff apart from my work. 10 songs for this guy, 15 songs for that guy, 20 songs for this other show.
Yeah.
So I guess like really taking care of business. I mean, like when you start working and you start performing, you really want to have like your technique and all of this stuff taken care of. You don't want to be worrying about that. It's the last thing you should ever worry about when you play, because what you want to be focusing on is doing your job, playing the music the way it's supposed to be, making everybody feel good, making the singer or whoever it is happy, making everyone happy. I like the idea of that challenge of it, where I'm like, okay, play pop, alright, now play rock, alright, now play fusion, now play jazz.
That's
so
awesome.
Like switching your mindset and being versatile, I would say. So that to me is something that I really like love doing. I like the idea of switching from this to that and that to this.
It's versatile, but in a way the pocket is the same, because the pocket is not a product of the instrument. It's internal. It comes from inside.
Well, for every different kind of music, how you see the time feel and everything is different for each music. So one time feel that you like does not apply for every single music. You know, sometimes when you hear a drummer play in general, you can tell, oh, he's a jazz drummer, or he's a rock drummer.
Right.
You know, so you really want to just be neutral, being very transparent. It always starts off for me as being really transparent on the drums when I sit down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we were talking about some of our favorite players before off camera, and I feel like, you know, we definitely have some mutual favorite contemporary drummers, and I feel like that's one thing that they have in common too, is you don't think of them as, oh, that's a rock drummer or a jazz drummer. It's like, no, that's just that person.
Yeah, so being very transparent towards the drums, I would say. So really listening to different time fields and understanding them so that you play differently. And when you do that a lot of times, what I realize is that, you know, your knowledge, your vocab starts to be broadened, and you really see a lot more in music.
If you could get all of your students, current and former, into a room and tell them one or two things that would save them all a bunch of time, what would those be?
Tone.
Interesting.
Musicality. Musicality covers everything, all the stuff, but tone, if you don't have good tone, to me, you're nothing. You are useless without good tone.
Oh no.
You know what I mean?
I hope I have good tone then.
Everybody has the different tone, but you know, if you don't have good tone, the music, you're not gonna support the music.
No, everything you say, I want to try to really internalize it and make it personal, so I can kind of understand what you're saying. And when I think about tone, I think about, like, especially, I mean, I guess on the jazz kit or something, like, just like when you hit a drum, when you hit a cymbal, like, you're thinking about the sound, and then it doesn't surprise you when you hit it. It's like the sound you expect to come out of the drum is more or less the sound that comes out of the drum.
Yeah.
And you feel like a lot of young players could stand to focus more on that.
I think it's really important not just to hear your sound, but to be able to see your sound. Seeing the sound, how it's coming out, it's very important. Not just blindly hitting them, you know what I mean? So that's really important. And of course, everybody's gonna get different tone. But for example, the way you speak, that's your character. The way I speak, that's my character.
Yeah.
So that's part of our tone. You know what I mean? That determines what kind of person are we, what kind of personality. Outgoing, shy, introvert, extrovert. I guess being a sessionist like me is just being like a two-headed snake that, you know, he can be pretty on stage, you know, he can be like nasty behind, and he can be funny, he can be really boring.
But there's that tension of being yourself still, but then being adaptable.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're impersonating anyone. You're always playing sincerely, but you're just adapting.
Yeah. And the only way for you to do that is to really like listen and really understand where those people are coming from and trying to see their sound and their approach. For me, I try to study interpretation more than analyzing what they're doing.
Right.
And it all boils down to what I was saying earlier about, you know, feeding your mind, letting it go through your hands as opposed to letting it go to your hands and not going to the mind.
Hell yeah. Man, you're dropping so much science.
I
Anyway,
hope it makes sense though.
hell yeah. Anyway, inspirational to hear you play. Great
Thank
to
you.
talk to you. Dudes, Arthur Cam. We out.